funny part about it is I know for a fact there's no way that police officer avoided hail that day. I know that within a couple minutes after that traffic stop, he probably had dents and maybe a cracked windshield after that. So. All right, so this is the story about one of many involvements that we've had with police over the years chasing. Most of them have been good. But so I was chasing with Matt after a golf tournament that we were playing in Arkansas, and we were coming back through southeastern Oklahoma. And this was one of those days where it was like, you're probably not going to see a tornado, but you could see a couple good supercells if you get lucky. Just happened to be on our way, so we ended up deciding to chase. Well, we get there and we were just, I want to say, in the area of Duncan to Idabel, kind of on that road down there. No other cars on this highway. And we'd been sitting at this intersection for a good 20 or 30 minutes watching this supercell develop and come towards us. And it was a fatty. I mean, there was some hail in there. It was green. It was tall. I mean, Echo Top's over 55K. So we're watching it come towards us. And our problem was road networks, because down there, a lot of rivers, a lot of trees. So we were just happy to have a good view. Velocity was really low on it. So it was just a structure chase. Well, while we were sitting there, as tends to happen, a police officer came up to us and asked if we're doing all right. You know, it's not often you just see a car sitting on the side of the road. So really nice of him to come and check on us. So yeah, we said, oh, we're just watching the storms. But at the point that he had come to check on us was the time that we needed to leave. Because usually you want to leave a couple minutes that you can spare to, if you have traffic in front of you or something like that, to get out of the way of hail. And our escape route for this particular location was going east a couple miles and then south. And the problem was the cell was pretty much directly to our west, and the hail was west and south of us because we're watching it kind of come up due east towards us. So the conversation with the police officer took a minute or two. He was just asking what we're doing. Well, Matt decided that it would be a great idea for him to make a U-turn and then go about 10 over the speed limit immediately, while the only other vehicle in the entire area was this police officer. So we get on the road, and I had started to play a word hunt, as I do, just to pass the time while we were getting in different position. I didn't even get 30 seconds into my word hunt before we got lit up again. The same police officer that had checked on us. So Matt was like, oh, I was like, Matt, why did you just immediately speed in front of the police officer when we're the only car on the road? So we pull over, and the police officer was no longer as friendly as he was a minute ago. And he comes up to us and was like, look, I understand that you're chasing these storms, but you got to follow traffic laws. And Matt was like, yeah, yes, sir. And so he asked for our license and registration. Well, Matt's anyways. Took it back there. Meanwhile, I'm watching radar, right? Because we've probably left about 5 minutes of leeway time between when we needed to have left and when the hail was going to be there. Which, of course, we're sitting now on the road, not moving, watching a giant green HP supercell coming directly towards us. The police officer took his sweet time running Matt's insurance and stuff. I mean, it was like probably one of the slowest traffic stops. At least it felt like the slowest traffic stop I've ever been on. Officer comes back, and he's like, all right, well, you need to be following the rules of the road. And another thing, you can't be out here chasing if you're not licensed by the NOAA. And we were just like, what? First of all, storm chasing, you don't need to be licensed by the NOAA, as he said it. But the second thing was we actually were. We both have our chaser certification, and Matt does have affiliation with NOAA, so it was really funny. Of course, we weren't going to say that and argue with him in the moment since he'd just given us a warning, but especially since we were probably about 45 seconds from getting some pretty big ping pong golf ball size hail on our location. So as soon as he let us go, we were like, yes, sir, we'll be sure to get on that certification. And he was like, all right, you boys be safe. So we bolted. I mean, we went exactly the speed limit until we were out of the side of that cop, and then ducked south because we had to get south. The problem was the road that we were on, east-west, started to go north, which there would have been more hail up there. we bolted south as soon as we got on that south road. And the funny part about it is I know for a fact there's no way that police officer avoided hail that day. I know that within a couple minutes after that traffic stop, he probably had dents and maybe a cracked windshield after that. So poor guy. It was a funny altercation, but um, yeah, now that's kind of a joke between my chasing group is we're always like, you got to be certified by the NOAA if you're going to be out here chasing. The first time that I ever chased was in March of 2021, I think. And we went out to moderate risk out in the Panhandle, which we'll tell that story another time, but Josh Spear was driving this day, and he wasn't going that fast. I mean, maybe 8 or 10 over the speed limit. I think he was doing maybe 80 and a 70 or something like that. I mean, these Texas roads, there's nothing on them. So anyway, there was another car that was behind us that was doing pretty much the exact same thing. Well, we passed a police officer going up. We went up over the hill, and there was a police officer coming the other way. And we all said, uh-oh. And we looked at our rearview mirror and saw that the police officer had made a U-turn and was coming back, and we're like, oh, we're toast. We're about to get pulled over. Instead, we see the guy behind us get pulled over, which was awesome. I mean, it was some of the best luck I think I've ever seen, because typically I would expect him to pass it and pull the front car over. So we went another about mile and a half and stopped to look at radar, stopped to look at models. We were just getting in position. And then we see the same police officer about 5 or 10 minutes later come up, turn on his lights, and pull next to us. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we should have just kept going and gotten out of the way, right? Now he's going to probably give both of us a ticket. Well, guy comes over, and he was in one of those trucks. He's got his cowboy hat on, very, very, very Texan. So he comes up, and, again, we're just being very polite, very nervous that we're about to get a ticket while chasing, and he goes, yeah, I had to pull that other guy over because he was trying to keep up with y'all. And I was like, excuse me? Like, he was trying to keep up with us? Like, what do you mean by that? He's like, yeah, I usually like to give storm chasers a little bit of leeway, trying to catch up to storms out here. And I was like, you are the coolest police officer I've ever encountered. So we were chatting for a while about the storms, and he was sharing some stories about different storms he's seen in this area. I guess he'd been an officer there for quite a while. And when we were leaving, he said, all right, well, hold on just a second. And again, I started to get worried. And then he said, well, if you look at the map here, you should be clear of any officers between here and, I don't remember the name of the town, but it's like here in X town. So you shouldn't have to worry about anything until then, but there should be a couple people around there. So he didn't tell us it was okay to speed, but that was the coolest police officer that I've ever encountered. Another funny police officer that we encountered was up chasing, this was with Matt Ammon up in Minnesota. And I think I'll tell that story with Matt another time, but basically when we were pulling out of dinner, we were in Minnesota, and we were just north of the Iowa border. And Matt went to call his girlfriend, and so he was talking on the phone in the parking lot, pulled out on the highway, and immediately got lit up. I mean, immediately. And so pulled back into the parking lot. Officer comes up and was like, hey, just so you know, you're not allowed to be on the phone while you're driving in Minnesota. And Matt was like, oh, I didn't know that, thanks. I'm from out of state, never been here before, first time in Minnesota. Are there any other laws that we should be aware of when we're out here? And the officer immediately said, yes, actually, it is illegal to cross into Iowa with a chicken on your head. Deadpan face. I mean, he was so serious when he was telling us this. And Matt said, well, thank you very much for letting me know that. And so went about our way. So we met at the hotel in Yankton and got in my car. And this was after the Morton supercell a couple days after that. So my car was still hailed out. I still had only one headlight that was working. Again, 20 seconds out of the parking lot, pulled out of the parking lot, immediately gets pulled over. Again, this is like 10 p.m., no other cars on the road. So this is our second time getting pulled over within the same day. So I pull into the gas station, he's like, you got a broken headlight. I'm like, yep, just happened, I know, I'm aware of that. So then we drive a little bit farther south, and we were down in Oklahoma, and I was in Stillwater, Oklahoma. We were almost back to Norman, and I get pulled over. Again, same thing, headlight out, right? I mean, what are you going to do? How am I supposed to have prepared it between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. or whatever this was the next day? But yeah, I get pulled over again, and then I was actually headed out back to South Carolina at this time, and then got pulled over again for the exact same thing in South Carolina. So I guess this is a good lesson. You know, if you've got a headlight out or brake light out, they probably care more about that than if you're speeding. So, but yeah, so those are my interactions that I've had with police officers chasing.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure you take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell button so you're notified every time a video like this comes out. And while you're at it, why don't you check out chasepal.us? That way you're able to connect with us over all social media platforms.